Hey everyone, I'm doing something different this time. This is don't even know why I'm even doing this, but I figured, you know, as someone that's a collector of books that reads lots of books, by the way, nonfiction's not included here. This is just books that I've accumulated over the years, but not everything, of course. I can't showing my entire book collection, which consists of Star Wars, Star Trek, amongst other things. It would be beyond the scope of this video. It would literally be like a 4-hour video showcasing everything. Perhaps more, because I have that much shit when it comes to books. But why am I even talking about this? What? I just think it's interesting throughout the years, the evolution of paperbacks. I bring up paperbacks because paperbacks were a cheap alternative to hardbacks. For those who do not know, it's a shame that so many people don't read these days. It's a tragedy. When books were released, it came out in hardback first, and you had to wait up to 6 months to a year later. Now, if you were a high-profile book, the hardback would still be reprinted alongside the paperback. Now, I do think the paperbacks were made as a cheaper alternative, and people flocked to them. People bought them because they were simply cheaper and more compact than a hardback. Of course, hardcovers do come in different shapes and sizes, which that's a discussion for a different video. This isn't discussing my preference for what format of books I'd rather read. I'm just discussing paperbacks and their evolution throughout the years. And, well, they can come in all sizes. Now, I'm trying to keep this strictly like as non-tie-in fiction as much as possible, because I have some Star Trek books that are like close to 40 years old that are still in pretty good condition. That might be a different topic for a different time on how paperbacks have degraded in quality in terms of its paper. This is basically a reprint of a book that came out in the 80s. Now, if you look at the price for each of these books, like, it's interesting. This was $8, so this had to have been released like over like a decade ago. Paperbacks were cheap. Were extremely cheap. For those of you who remember, they were able to go. They went as low as $2. Then in the 2010s, a new format of the mass paperback were released, though they didn't last that long compared to the others. These paperbacks. They were bigger. They were more expensive. Now, some may have preferred these paperbacks. I prefer the smaller ones. The reason for that is you were able to fit more books. And when you're trying to pack your books, it's more difficult when you have books that are in two different formats. But these kind of books were gradually being phased out. And it's quite a shame, because it actually was a good way to get people who just couldn't afford to spend tons of money on a hardback to read a book. Any of the new books that came out, if you just waited for a bit, you were able to get a smaller book. These are more compact. Like if you're traveling, especially, you could potentially travel with 3, 4, or 5 of them potentially. Depending on how fast you read, you may go through them quickly. Now, there are some criticisms I could give of these kind of paperbacks. Like, if you had a book, and I'm just going to get one, that are like this size, they don't tend to last as long the more you read them, because the binding is just doesn't hold books that are that fucking thick. Or something like this, which is as well. Also, it depends on the publisher, too. You could have because depending on the publisher, the books could be better or worse. And well, this one is like over like Jesus. How many pages is this? Sorry, I'm just looking at it as the video. Yeah, when you start getting to this, you cannot read these books as many times. And if you want to make them last, you have to basically. Okay, I can't. This is my camera on my phone, but you basically have to have it open as little as possible. That's not possible always with these books. And then when you get to the thousands of pages, which I don't possess those because a small mass market paperback and the ideal amount of pages you should have is no more than like about 500 is fine. This book, which is the first half of Magician, has around close to 500 pages. It's fine. You could read it multiple times and it's not going to fall apart like books that exceed that number. And not to mention the Bantam. Sorry, not Bantam. Yeah, Bantam. I think that's its name. Let's just see. Yeah, Bantam Books. Yeah, they tend to produce books of higher quality in terms of paper. At least they used to. I don't know. I don't have any modern publications of those. Then you have these, which I do think, depending on the publisher, they could be inferior or superior in quality. Like I've read most of the Dune books, and I'm not talking about the extended Dune. I'm talking about the mainline Dune books in this format. Now, if you have a difficult time reading something that's smaller in print, I think this format is actually a good alternative. But this has been phased out as well completely. And of course, there's also the different sizes for these, which I think, unlike the mass market paperbacks, I think you could do more with these when it comes to like the amount of pages you could put without it falling apart after multiple people reading them. Then again, it also comes with like the paper of the quality of the paper is cheaper now than it was. What I'm talking about in terms of the quality, because I have books that are over 30 years old that the paper still feels of high quality. It still feels good. It doesn't feel like it's going to tear, or if you're not gentle when you turn the page, it's going to fucking tear. It's like, yeah, the quality of the paper has greatly declined. Of course, this goes for all formats, but paperbacks especially. I think it's really sad that the mass market paperbacks have been completely phased out at this point. I'm not saying you still can't find them in used bookstores, but publishers are not as willing to publish them as they used to, even though they're cheaper to make, because why charge $8 or 10 for something of these two sizes when you could charge about half of what a hardback costs? Because you do have paperbacks that are almost the same price as a hardback. They're just like, oh, I said almost. They're like $10 or $15 cheaper. And these, of course, these paperbacks, they're usually about the same size as a hardback. Well, then again, like I said, hardbacks do come in all shapes and sizes. So they have the same page count. Now, I don't mind these paperbacks because the writing is big, it's easier to read. And I think if you're doing a collection of multiple books, this format is the most ideal way to do it. It also depends on the publisher too. Like these paperbacks could be just as expensive as a hardback. But then again, if you're like me and you shop smart, you could get them cheaper. Of course, then there's the most common, which I do think these have basically replaced the mass market paperbacks. And, well, they're around this size now, the average paperback. And do I have the same criticism? I do not know, but I think something like this is fine because of the size. Because I think it could survive multiple reads. Then you have this. Again, it varies from publisher to publisher when it comes to the quality of the paper. And of course, I'm just showing the different sizes in this format. This is where the kind of paperbacks that Star Trek and Star Wars now currently publish in. Now, I don't have any new Star Wars novels that are published in this format. I have a few reprints of some of the Legends books, but I only got my favorite books in that format simply because I just don't want to spend the money on books that, unless they're my favorite, when it comes to rebuying them again. Of course, then you have something like this. It kind of sucks, I'm not going to lie. Because even though the mass market paperbacks, they may have had their issues when it comes to, like, yeah, the paper can be kind of cheap, but look how compact this is. You can literally fit multiple of these in your backpack, easy. And if you go to a used bookstore, like I have, like my Star Trek novels, most of them are in the mass market. I was literally able to get like 30 or 40 books, no joke. And it would, because it wasn't difficult to carry them around. You cannot carry that many of these around because they're too big. Now, do I think it's a big deal that they've been phased out? No. But it kind of sucks because of the alternatives and the price for them. You have some books that are almost $20. Like a book like this is $20. When 10 years ago it would have been $8. Was it worth phasing out the mass market paperbacks just to have things a little bit more convenient? I don't think so. But then again, the kind of world that we live in, they phased out this format not because this format is superior or this is superior. It's the price. Like the price for this, you can see it clearly here. It's over $10 more than this. Like for the price of a mass paperback before they changed the format to the bigger ones, you were literally able to get for $20 3 or 4 books if you managed it right. Especially if there was a sale. Now you can only get 1 or 2 if you're lucky for that price. So yeah, a huge tragedy. And I don't have anything else to say about that. Anyway, good day. This video was pointless, I know, but I want to do something different.